Hello, my name is Investigator Jamie Jeffers from Gwinnett County Arson. Today we're here to discuss serving as an expert witness. We're going to discuss the expectations of an expert witness. We're going to explain ways to avoid courtroom confrontations with defense attorneys. We're going to explain ways in which things like fire modeling can be used in the courtroom to assist us. And we're also going to talk about some different tips that I've learned over the years about testifying in court. So to begin, let's talk about what's an expert. Looking it up in Merriam-Webster dictionary, expert's defined as an adjective meaning having, involving, or displaying special skill or knowledge derived from training or experience. Kind of goes along and corresponds with what NFPA 921 also defines an expert witness as, which is an expert witness is generally defined as someone with sufficient skill, knowledge, or experience in a given field so as to be capable of drawing inferences or reaching conclusions or opinions that an average person would not be competent to reach. Basically, you're saying that you have enough training and enough education to serve as an expert and to give your opinion, and your opinion being used in the court system. Further information on what an expert witness is you have the Federal Rules of Evidence. Rule 702 is a testimony by expert witness. And an expert witness is someone who has qualified as an expert by knowledge, skills, experience, training, or education can testify in the form of opinion. The expert's scientific, technical, or otherwise specialized knowledge will help their tier of fact to understand the evidence or determine a fact in an issue. The testimony is based on sufficient facts or data. This testimony is also a product of reliable principles and methods, and the expert has reliably applied these principles and methods to the facts of the case. So something to consider when you're testifying is you got to be prepared to recite your qualifications. And what I mean by this is you got to be able to tell the courts your education, your training, your experience, any certifications, any teaching, any professional writings, any association memberships, awards or honors, prior testimony. All these things are going to be things that you're going to have to be able to explain and tell the court that will qualify you as an expert witness. Essentially, you're going to be reading your CV to the court. You may or may not have any prelim questions by a defense attorney. Also, this is the only time during the trial in which you are going to be the issue. And do not get engaged in any conduct that's going to make you an issue either. Basically meaning you don't want to be caught outside the courtroom doing things or saying something that you otherwise wouldn't be. You don't want to be unprofessional to basically discredit your credibility. You don't want to be caught telling lies. You want to be professional. And you don't want to, get yourself in situations where you've been caught lying during a court appearance or, have any kind of criminal history that has that could even discredit your qualifications. You also got to be able to, explain your qualifications through NFPA 1033. NFPA 1023 has listed out the 16 JPRs that you're supposed to have education, training, and knowledge of. And you got to be able to explain how you've met these minimum qualifications. Some other things to consider is the Daubert challenge. Daubert challenge, a theory or technique in question can be and has been tested. Has been subjected to peer review and publications, known or potential error rate, the existence and maintenance of standards controlling its operations, such as the existence and maintenance of 921, controlling investigators and how they go about conducting an investigation using the scientific method, and it has a widespread acceptance within the relevant scientific community. So basically, Daubert challenge is, have you met the standards of NFPA 1033 to be a fire investigator, and are your practices following NFPA 921 and using the scientific method. You also have the FRI challenge. Some states are FRI states, generally accepted by relevant scientific community and scientifically accepted. You might have to meet. So moving forward, so what's some tips for your testimony as an expert witness, or even just a generalized case that you're going to testify against? You got to remember, you're the storyteller, so you're going to be telling the story. You want to be prepared. You want to make sure you have everything you need and you've reviewed all your material from your cases. You might want to meet with the lawyer or the prosecutor on this case to kind of make sure that you both are on the same page. Be professional. Well dressed, no gum, don't chew tobacco, don't smoke tobacco. Don't have anything that's going to distract your audience while you're telling your story. You want to maintain good posture. Sit upright, don't slouch. If you're slouching and not paying attention and just not maintaining a good posture, how do you think your audience is going to receive your message? You want to practice. Go over your scenario. Go over what you're testifying on. Practice it. Tell yourself in the mirror. Practice. Talk to family members. Let them kind of sit there and be your audience and let them listen to you tell your story. You only want to answer the questions that you're being asked. You don't want to volunteer any information. Remember, most jurors don't understand fire investigations like you do, so you got to use language that they're going to understand. Look to the jury when you're asked a question. You're asked the question by a lawyer, but you're telling your answer to the juror. That's who you want to explain to, so you want to look at them and let them see your face, your expressions while you're telling the story, and let them kind of hopefully understand what you're telling them. Use simple words, no slang or fancy words. We're not going to go into 921 and use the most complex verbiage that 921 has. We want to simplify that. We want to use descriptive language. We'll really kind of spell out what we're saying and how we're putting it and describe the items and stuff that we're looking at. Again, that kind of goes back to the simple words and no slang or fancy terms, but we're going to use common language and very descriptive language. A line of demarcation basically is showing the area that has no soot staining to it or smoke staining, and is a clear line indicating where the smoke has banked down in that room. During your cross-exam, you got to remember this. You investigated the scene, you were the one that was there, and you know more about this than anybody else. Remain calm. If a defense attorney sees you getting flustered, they're going to continue going after you, asking them questions and putting you in spots that are going to make you feel uncomfortable. And guess what? The juror is going to see that. Don't speculate or guess. If you don't understand something, ask for clarification. Don't be too quick to answer a question either. Make sure you sit back, gather your thoughts, and give a valid and detailed explanation to answer their questions. If you're jumping right after they get done talking, have you really sat down and have you really thought about your answer and how you're going to respond? Beware of compound questions. Example, isn't it true you still beat your wife? That kind of gets into a whole deep ball game of different things. Is it true you still beat your wife? When did I ever say I beat my wife? That's a compound question. It's kind of building up on multiple items. Beware of any kind of setup questions. Would you do X, Y, and Z? Why didn't you do this on this instant? Did you? Or you didn't do this on this instant? Did you? 921 is a guide. It is not a Bible. We don't have to do everything verbatim by 921, even though it is our kind of go-to book on how to conduct ourselves in an investigation. But if you remember, just example being, should you do a exterior examination of a fire scene counterclockwise or clockwise? 921 tells us to do it from the least burnt to the most burnt. So if you're not doing it the same way every time, you got to be able to explain that when the questions are asked. So, you know, be prepared. You know, we talked a little bit earlier. I told you we're going to go into fire modeling. How could something like fire modeling, sketches, pictures, all this stuff that we have to our at our resource be something that we can use in court? You know, fundamentals of fire dynamics can be used to test hypotheses regarding fire origin. Um, you know, we have available scientific literature um, that's available. Fire modeling, you know, uses everything that is out there. Fundamentals are described, available in scientific literature to incorporate into fire modelings ranging from simple algebraic equations to even more complex fire models. Models can be used to help, you know, confirm or even disprove hypothesis. The results can be compared to physical eyewitness evidence of the origin of hypothesis. Um, you know, examples: fire patterns indicate a set fire, no accelerant was used. Argument can be made that the fire wasn't started by a cigarette. You know, you're using all this data to create the fire model, and you're, you know, such as a time frame, the construction of the property or the building that was on fire. You know, and then you do test burns to show how a cigarette butt dropped on a couch would start the fire, and the computer model shows the difference in a set fire versus a accidental fire, and what kind of time frame and fire development you're going to see. So we also want to make sure we have the good documentation, because our good documentation when we're going to court will help keep us out of really bad cross exams. You know, if you're documenting well and you got everything proper and it explains everything to a point to where there's no questions that can be asked, guess what? No questions will be asked typically. You know, some other things that we can use is 3D cameras and just good overall quality photographs. You know, our pictures kind of can help us go back and relive the story. A 3D camera even can essentially put our jury into the fire scene with us as we're explaining what we saw and what all these different patterns and you know, charring and the smokes staining, all is everything's telling us about the fire scene. We also don't want to allow for any gaps to be identified in our investigation process, which means we got to do our job, we got to do it the right way, and we got to be thorough when we do it. If there's something that you typically would do on any other case, any other fire investigation, you want to make sure that's done, and you want to make sure it's documented. If it's not done for whatever reason, you want to make sure it's explained why it was not done. So, you know, just kind of rehearse or reviewing everything that we've talked about. You know, going to court, it's stressful. I know I've been to court a few times now, and every time I've gone to court, it's been very stressful. But we want to make sure, as an expert witness, as somebody that's going to testify on a fire incident and what our fire investigation revealed, we want to make sure that we're showing them that we have the knowledge, training, and ability to make a fire classification, a cause classification, determine the proper origin, and we're following all the scientific research and information available to us to come up with these conclusions. You know, we want to make sure that we're staying professional, that we're remaining calm, we've practiced and rehearsed everything. We want to make sure that we know what we're going to say when we get there. And we want to make sure we have everything documented properly to make sure we don't get caught off our guard. You know, we don't want the defense attorneys coming in and catching us with something that we should have done, but we didn't do because, you know, we forgot or whatever the case may be. So hope this helps everybody out a little bit. And if you got any questions, feel free to come up and talk to me after this video's done, and I'll see what I can do to help you out. Be sure to remember there are plenty of classes out there, and the best thing you can do with any job function is go get some more training on it. I know the National Fire Academy offers classes over courtroom testimony. I know that the IAAI offers courtroom testimony classes. Most of our state chapters will offer some courtroom testimony classes. So if you can, find some classes to take and share them with us. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.